All right, so Three Ninjas Podcast, Domino, Hess, Jones, Bobby. And for those who don't know, ToeJam and Earl Back in the Groove came out this past Friday, March 1st. And right now we have on the phone someone that worked on that project, so be it that ToeJam and Earl is one of my top 5 favorite games of all time. It's an honor to talk to somebody who actually has some input on that project. So as of right now, we have lead artist Nathan Shorts on the phone. Nathan, how you doing, man?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. So I guess my first question is, right, so this game was announced in 2015, right? And it's just now coming out 2019. We've had release dates out there for 2017 to 2018, and it's just now coming out. What the hell took so long?
I feel like we had pretty high standards for our project. Every time we thought we were close to done, something else would pop up. We felt like we didn't want to give a subpar product to the fans, and so I think that was a lot. That had a lot to do with the delays. We would be working on online or we'd figure out fairly close to a release date that we could, fit 4-player in or add more characters or something. Greg, the co-creator and our lead designer, wanted this to be the quintessential ToeJam and Earl experience. And so whenever we felt like we could add something that would make this game more worthwhile, we felt it was worth the time and effort, especially if this was going to be the last ToeJam and Earl. We hope it's not, but it could be. And so we wanted to make sure everything that we wanted in there got in there. So
okay. Now, was there any one thing that you wanted to put in that you weren't able to?
Oh gosh, we wanted to have a bit more of a fleshed out story. Like before even the Kickstarter, we had talked about having more of a narrative, and we found that it wasn't really jiving very well with the game design as we started getting into development. I think it could have worked. It would have taken a little more time than I think we allowed ourselves. You can see a bit of that in the intro sequence. It was an animated, like, cartoon, like Nicktoon style intro, and we wanted a bit more of that, but it just didn't mesh well with the sort of like arcadey roguelike gameplay. So we ended up cutting it. There are other smaller things. There are a bunch of Earthlings that we really wanted in that might make it in as a DLC, but we couldn't make it in. Well, the bees from the first game are not present in this game.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yes,
I forgot about that.
So yeah, we do want those in eventually if we can make it. But we ended up opting to replace them with a couple of new Earthlings that served a similar purpose, just like a persistent attack Earthling. We had a cowboy Earthling and a cheerleader Earthling, just a bunch of like fun characters that, it came down to what we could manage as far as scope. Like, we wanted every Earthling that we thought of to be in there, but we had to kind of pick and choose our battles.
Okay.
Is the bulldog with the bubble in there?
No. So they got replaced by the Segway Guard. Oh, okay. It does the exact same things, like smushes you and causes some damage, but we wanted to update it a bit.
Okay. Now, in the early model that I seen, I think that came out like 2015 to 2016. The way the game looked was just totally different because you could see like the level below you. It was just like the graphics were just totally different. Now, as the lead artist, how many times did you have to start from scratch?
A couple times. The video that we showed for the Kickstarter was not even pre-alpha. It was like we just wanted to show people kind of what we had in mind as far as gameplay.
Okay.
But as far as visuals, that was so far from anything that I had envisioned. And so it took a couple of iterations. And even before we landed on, 3D with sprites, we experimented with, more pixel art. It became very clear that people could just kind of go and play the old one if they wanted the pixel art experience. We wanted something that felt new and refreshed. So, my vision for the style of the game was established pretty early on in our concept art. It was about how we translated that into a gameplay experience, which was where the real challenge was, because trying to make a game feel like it's a 90s cartoon is actually a lot harder than it sounds.
Right.
And also trying to capture the what people remember of a game, not necessarily what a game actually was visually. So like the sort of the clay looking islands, that was kind of our re-envisioning of what the landscape would have looked like, or at least what people imagined it would have looked like outside of a pixel art realm. But yeah, it's come a long way. I think the nice part about how we went about showing it initially in the Kickstarter was, for better or for worse, people didn't like that, and so we got to hear exactly what fans wanted to see, and then I could incorporate that feedback from the get-go.
Okay. All right, so now with the Kickstarter, you guys raised over $500,000 for this project, right?
Yes.
Okay, now, being with all the delays and the Kickstarter, now, was there any point in time where you thought this game just wouldn't come out?
Yes, unfortunately. There were a couple times. Even as recently as last June, we were very worried that it wouldn't see the light of day. And there are a number of different reasons for that. One of the times when we were really worried was a few months after the Kickstarter. There's just a number of expenses for the physical goods for Kickstarter rewards just started piling up, and we started losing money really quickly. And so we were trying to make all these sort of money moves to make sure that we could stay afloat. We almost shut down our office and everybody went remote. The nature of indie development is very scrappy. You kind of do what you got to do, and it either makes or breaks a studio. But we were resilient and always seemed to find a way to make sure this game got through the next month or 2 months. When we split off from Adult Swim Games, who helped us get to consoles and did a good amount of marketing footwork for us about halfway through. We were trying to figure out how to keep people on. I actually took a break for a few months to kind of let the engineers have the funds that they needed to keep going. And I got brought back on. Actually, found a couple of private investors. But yeah, it's a careful dance you gotta dance, especially when you're trying to pay people what they're actually worth, and not trying to be shady. So
right.
It was a couple times, but we got through every hurdle that came our way. So I'm happy about that.
Okay, so now you guys split from Adult Swim Games, right? Now, is it harder to be indie when trying to present this game to the public, to the hardcore fans, or what?
It's a mixed bag. The one of the biggest upsides to having a publisher is you have a built-in audience right from the get-go. Where they Adult Swim has it's a household name, at least for young adults and adults. So it's you get that automatically, and so you don't really have to worry about the marketing. You don't have to worry about are people going to see the product. But at the same time, they're controlling the messaging, so you don't necessarily have full control of how you want to present the product. And so the flip side of that is, as we're doing now, we might not have the big marketing machine pushing our product out onto the market, but we can also do exactly what we want to do with the marketing. So, I'm sure you've seen our Twitter. Right. A couple of us manage that.
Who runs your Twitter? Because y'all be on it.
I do a couple of, the Twitter account is kind of open to everybody at the studio, which is actually really good because we can be engaged with the fans all the time.
Yeah, because I saw some tweets about rappers. What's the dude that just got locked up by ICE?
What, 21 Savage?
21 Savage. I saw 21. Tweets about 21 Savage. I be seeing just a lot of hip hop quotes in there. I'm like, all right, I fuck with this. I like these people.
But yeah, we're all deep into the Twitter, so yeah, you're probably talking to at least one of us.
Yeah, right.
We can the sort of PR mindset gets kind of robotic at times, and when we have control over the PR, we can kind of do whatever the hell we want.
Right.
So it allows us to be a bit more personable with the fans, and I think that goes a long way. You'd much rather be talking to a developer than
PR.
Some PR firm somewhere you don't even know. And that has helped a lot. Just word of mouth from fans who had a good experience with us online. But yeah, it is a bit more of a hustle getting the product in front of people for that reason.
Okay. Now, like I said at the beginning, ToeJam and Earl 1, one of my top 5 games of all time, right? ToeJam and Earl 2 was cool. ToeJam and Earl 3 was a dud. All right.
Was it?
Complete dud.
I liked it.
I played it, obviously, but for the masses, no, it wasn't hitting.
Oh yeah, of course.
Now, how important was it to approach this game different, or so from that loss of ToeJam and Earl 3, how important was it to approach this title different?
Well, one of the first things that we wanted to do was to make sure that even if we got even if we started working with a publisher, we wanted to make sure that we retained all creative power over the project, because that was part of what made ToeJam and Earl 3 what it was.
Yeah.
They were actually in development making a game that was true to the original game, and then Sega stepped in and we were like, well, we want this changed and this tweaked, and we want it to become a hub world, and it was everything was counter to the goal of making a ToeJam and Earl game. So even when we started working with Adult Swim, we made it very clear that if we were to work with them, we needed all creative freedom. And they were very receptive to that. And then even after we split off, it was still very much like, this is our game. Nobody's going to tell us what to do. And that helped a lot with making sure that it retains the spirit of the first game, as well as the gameplay. And then, I think just trying to make sure that we didn't lose sight of the goal, which was making a sequel to the first title. I think it's very easy to, get influenced by other games that are coming out right now. And a lot of them have a different feel than the games did back then. And we tried to modernize it in certain ways, but we didn't want it to end up feeling like a Binding of Isaac or something modern that isn't ToeJam and Earl. We didn't want it to be violent. We didn't want it to be fast paced. we wanted to, retain the spirit of it. So, those were our main, I guess, worries and focuses on making sure that the game was what we set out to make it.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny you say that about keeping creative control, because we were just talking about Mortal Kombat. How Mortal Kombat, when it first came out, I felt like that was the original idea, and then when it went to like Mortal Kombat 4, 5, 6, 7, I don't feel like that was. I'm starting to feel like that's not Ed Boon's fault. You know how we were saying?
It might be.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I don't feel like it was. I really don't feel like it was. Because I think he was a part of Midway at one point, and then I guess he started his own company, NetherRealm Studios. So with the creative control, I kind of feel you on that. That's like some of the greatest games has like freedom of range. They do whatever. Like I think Grand Theft Auto was one of them. Mortal Kombat definitely. And God of War. God of War one of them.
Right.
Okay.
So that makes sense.
All right. Now, what was the decision to steer away from the 3D graphics? Because, you got the ToeJam and Earl 3, but on this installment, Back in the Groove, you went back to like the 2D graphics sort of. So why did you guys steer away from, I guess, like the opportunities that you could have had with like the next gen consoles with, the 4K TVs and, things like that?
Sure. Well, there were a few reasons. One was we wanted to distance ourselves as much as possible from the third game, just by association.
Rightfully so. I get you.
Felt like, returning to form I felt like a good decision. We didn't go completely away from the 3D, and the actual land masses themselves are 3D modeled.
Yeah.
But I think when we really decided what we wanted the style to be, it became very clear that, cell shading and 2D shaders, those are fine for 3D, but you don't really get the same feel as just a 2D animated, character. And so we tried to get the best of both worlds. We used an animation program called Spine, which is a 2D puppeting software that uses 3D principles. So like we put a mesh over the 2D model, and it could stretch and deform like you could a 3D model, but it was still 2D, so we could keep the sort of look that I was drawing intact. And then I think it also just came down to Greg's personal preference. He had just came off of making a game called Doki Doki Universe, which was it was 2D characters and environments on a 3D backdrop, and so it was kind of a development style that he was familiar with and had a soft spot for. So we kind of tried to mesh it all together into one cohesive package.
Okay. Now, from the announcement of this game in 2015 to its release in 2019, what was the most troublesome or annoying thing with this project?
I think the most troublesome was getting the online play to work. It's always a very big undertaking, and especially for a small studio like ours, with limited testing resources and all that, it was very much just a slow process, and so it wasn't even frustrating as far as I remember. It was just it took a very long time. So that was definitely one of the biggest challenges, I feel. And then I guess just trying to make sure that the gameplay was where we wanted it to be. We took it to a lot of game shows for that reason. We felt like we were too close to the game to accurately get feedback from ourselves. So taking it to game shows really helped get general public feedback. But that also took a while because, every game show we got to like figure out how to get a booth and a setup, and they only happen every couple of months. So it took a longer amount of time to get that done.
Now, I grew up on the game, right? So it comes out. So the original comes out in 1991. Now it's 2019.
Right.
How are you going to market this game to the younger crowd who didn't necessarily grow up on ToeJam and Earl? Like, how do you plan to introduce this to them?
So one of the main ones so far that we've been pushing is through Twitter. We kind of decided pretty. So once we split off from Adult Swim, we kind of sat down and we were like, how do we want to reapproach how we're marketing this on social media? Because the older crowd that grew up on it, and I'm not saying you're old, I also grew up on it, but they'll probably recognize it. Well, they'll probably recognize it just from seeing it. That's what we're hoping for with that crowd. But with the newer crowd, they have no idea what ToeJam and Earl is. And so we had to, our approach was, well, let's kind of act like we're the age of the characters. As far as canon goes, in Back in the Groove, ToeJam and Earl are like late teens. And so we started to act like the characters, and that kind of became what our Twitter is now. We speak as the characters, and that's kind of, it's both, I guess, juvenile, but in a way appealing to an audience of that age.
Right.
We've started, we've kind of crafted our own meme account in a way, which has gotten a large young audience to consider buying our game, even if they didn't know that we were a game when they started following our Twitter.
Okay.
I've been seeing that a lot, where they're a fan of our Twitter, and then they ask us, "Oh, is this a game?" And then we say yes, and then they go and buy the game. So it's a very interesting and almost backwards way of marketing a game, where the game is secondary in a way.
Right.
But it's working. So
that's what
we're just going to keep doing the work.
Yeah, the cultural references and stuff like that. You got to put like some memes up there. Some you got to do something to get these little ADD ass kids. You got to get their attention somehow.
Yeah.
So now, we've all played ToeJam and Earl. Now this looks like it'll be a dope cartoon. Is there any talks in the works of making ToeJam and Earl like a cartoon?
Yeah, so Greg has tried almost the entire time that ToeJam and Earl has been a thing. Nothing's really gotten where it should to get something going. But it is currently represented by an agency in Hollywood that kind of shops it around. We just announced recently that Macaulay Culkin was an executive producer on the game, and he has his own brand, Bunny Ears. Is kind of a satirical lifestyle brand, but our game is the first to be under the Bunny Ears Games moniker. They're considering branching out, so we're there's possibility of working with him to get something going. I have a couple of connections from my art side. There are a couple ways we could do it, but we are working on maybe a cartoon series. We just gotta put in that extra work, and a lot of it will really come down to how well this game does. Because if we can prove that ToeJam and Earl is still relevant through this game, then a bunch of doors can open. So
right now, on your end, being a lead artist, was there any pushback on like the art style that you chose?
From fans, yes. From Greg, no. Greg was incredibly supportive through the whole process. He actually brought me in specifically because of the art style I was going to bring onto the project. I have a comics background, so he kind of had this like early 90s underground comic style in mind. It ended up becoming more of a Rugrats or a Rocko's Modern Life, but I was kind of in his ballpark. And then from there on, he just kind of let me do my thing, and we ended up landing where we wanted to. It's not everybody's cup of tea, I've noticed. There are fans who just they either want the straight up pixel art or
the 16-bit,
or like the high def 3D graphics, which I don't feel like it made a whole lot of sense for this sort of franchise anyway. But I learned a long time ago that you can't please everybody, so we just kept trudging down the path that we chose, and there weren't a whole lot of challenges for the art style that I had set forth to do. So
okay, so my last thing is, you, Greg, everyone else at Human Nature Studios, are you guys satisfied with the final product?
Yes. So something that we started noticing, I guess about a year and a half ago. So every once in a while we'd play test, like either on lunch break or whatever. And we have a studio that has a couple different rooms. And the main room has the TV and the testing machines. And what we started noticing was, I'd be in one room, Greg be in another room. And we'd start to hear them laugh. And kind of laugh hysterically. And that was when we started to tune into the fact that we had something. And we saw that more and more through the game shows. And after a while, people were just having a blast. They might not even know what the game was or how to play, but they were entertained. And I think that was part of where we started feeling like we had hit the mark. The other one was when we started hearing from fans, and more specifically in the closed beta. We had a lot of bugs that we still had to fix. A lot of people, a lot of our backers were already saying, this is what I was hoping for from a new ToeJam and Earl. And, if that is the predominant opinion of fans of the series, that we did it justice and we hit the mark, then that's how that's where I'd be satisfied. And so far, that's what I've been hearing. So personally, I'm happy with it. I think Greg's very happy with it, and the rest of the team, I'm sure. So I think we did what we set out to do.
Okay, good.
You know what? I'm surprised you guys didn't make an alien modeled after Lil Wayne.
I mean, it would have been...
I was just thinking about it. I was like, man, that's just like right there.
I mean, he always called himself an alien.
Yeah, so we are not the same. I am a Martian. I was like, that's right up your alley.
He could have been ToeJam, shit.
Yeah, right. We've been talking about different ideas for DLC, and we've gotten in touch with a couple of rappers as of late.
Tyler the Creator, maybe?
We've been talking...
Tyler the Creator?
Yeah, maybe. We've been talking to Lil B. We're in touch with...
Bass guy?
We're in touch with Run the Jewels. So we were kind of throwing around the idea of like doing a DLC where like we have all these rappers in there, like Funkatronian forms as downloadable characters or something. We've also been throwing around the idea of like, maybe trying to recruit people for a mixtape for like some like, limited product or something, but that's all just like ideas, throwing ideas around. We'll see how this game does before we start trying on DLC and stuff. But
you guys gotta get
we've got a lot of ideas. Right, yeah.
Gotta get him.
Yeah, he's an alien already, man.
Exactly. All right, Nate. So, ToeJam and Earl Back in the Groove is available on Steam, Xbox, Nintendo Switch, and PlayStation, correct?
Yes.
All right. So, is there anything else from you guys? Anything else you want to ask?
Anything else you want to ask, Coda?
No.
No, I think that's good. All right. So, Nathan Shorts from Human Nature Studios. Thank you for calling in, man. We appreciate it.